That recording now. And then if you have questions throughout the session, please write them in the chat and we will do our best to address them during the session, or perhaps we'll save some for the Q&A time. And this is going to be a pretty interactive session, so feel free to write, use the chat. You can go to the next slide, please. So I just would like to introduce you to the staff at Northwest Disability Support. If you each just want to, Maria, maybe you want to start first since your picture's first and just say.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Maria Rangel. I'm the bilingual programs coordinator for Northwest Disability Support. I'm also a mother of 3 wonderful children who have all taught me to see life in 3 very different ways. My 3 children are Ruby. She's 15. She loves music, dancing, coloring, and she also experiences Down syndrome. And then my 14-year-old Giovanni, he loves sports. And my 8-year-old son Emiliano, he's an artist, a very curious boy, and he experiences anxiety. Thank you and welcome.
And then we have Angela.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Angela Fromm. I'm the Senior Program Director for Northwest Disability Support, and I'm very delighted to be here this evening alongside you all and Cindy and the team. And this is a wonderful topic and really exciting, and I'm looking forward to being with you this evening. Thank you.
And I'm Shelley. I'm the Kindergarten Inclusion Program Coordinator at Northwest Disability Support. And I'm also a mom to 2 kids. And my youngest son has Down syndrome. And so very familiar with this whole process of IEPs and wanting to really partner with the team and create a positive relationship. And Marcella?
My name is Marcella. I do the web design and digital communications for Northwest Disability. And I'm excited to be here for this training. This is our 3rd one, and I've learned a lot so far. So thanks, everyone.
And Tracy? Not sure if we have choices.
Sorry about that. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be on the English or the Spanish channel, but I'm in English. So hi to everybody. My name is Joycey. I have a 4-year-old, soon to be 5 years old, who experiences Down syndrome. I am the community outreach coordinator with the Northwest Disability Support, and I am learning, and I am here to share and learn too with everybody that has come into this session. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you. So now we'd like to learn a little bit about you. So I know we have a mix of parents and professionals here. And so parents, if you'd like to share in the chat, maybe your child's name, their grade, school district, something you love about them. And professionals, we'd love to hear from you as well. Perhaps your role, your school district, something you love about your work. So nice to see all the the variety of things that our kids love to do and that we love about our kids. And thank you for sharing. That helps us get to know a little bit each other in this time of not being able to have a lot of direct interaction with each other. You can go ahead to the next slide, Cindy. So I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Cindy Ryan, and she is an associate professor and early childhood program coordinator at Western Oregon University. And she has experience as both an early childhood educator, as well in inclusive programs, as well as her experience as in higher education. So thank you, Cindy. We appreciate your wealth of knowledge and experience and your willingness to share that with all of us.
Thank you. Okay. I'm happy. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys, to all of you tonight. I'm going to try and say, I'm working on trying to say, not say you guys anymore. I'm working on that. So if I, but here's what our evening is going to look like. I'm going to do a little bit of an intro, and then we're going to talk a bit about what actually is a portfolio. The session is focusing on the portfolio. And so what is it and why is it important? And then we're going to get the opportunity to look at parts and pieces of several different portfolios and do some interacting and have some conversation about that, and looking at strategies and putting together a portfolio and strategies of what you might want to put into a portfolio. And then we will have time at the end for some question and answers, but you are also, as Shelley and I think Maria had said earlier, you're welcome to put some things in the chat too. And then we also, throughout this evening, we'll have a few different spaces for you to interact and add some things into the chat so we can have some conversations. All right. So I'm going to introduce, Shelley introduced me, my professional self, and I had 20 years of experience, just about 20 years as in early intervention. I did home visiting with infants and toddlers. And then I also had inclusive preschool programs and also taught kindergarten as well for many years. And so I've had a lot of experience before moving into higher education. But my most proud accomplishments is being a mom to my three kiddos, Zach, Caitlin, and Jordan. And I had the epiphany about a month ago of realizing that my oldest just turned 35, which means he's really old. And I guess that means that I'm really old as well. And he also made me a grandma to Zephyr, an amazing 9-year-old little guy, and they live in Minnesota. So we do a lot of FaceTime and a lot of Zoom. I watch him play Legos and play video games and stuff. I'm also a dog mama to a very naughty pup that a few of you know, named Ruthie, and a daughter, a sister, a friend, a teacher, a student, and an advocate. And I'm a lover of water and agates and books. And finally, I've just recently become a baker. I had to share this picture with you. Last week, I made my first real loaf of bread. My kids gifted me baking equipment over Christmas. And so I made a loaf of bread, and I'm now really excited about taking baking forward. All right, so that's a little bit about me. And now what I hope we can do is take just a minute, because it's been a day, it's Thursday, within a week, within a year, right? And just to center ourselves and to breathe and to celebrate that we're here with one another at 5:15 on a Thursday evening. We've already talked about using the chat feature and participating as you're comfortable, but I'm hoping that you're ready to try some new ideas and think about some new things And with that, I'd like you, as I have, gathered a piece of paper and something to write with, so you can jot down some of those ideas or some of your questions that you might want to save or ask at a different time. I like to doodle while I'm thinking. And so if you can be ready for some of that and just breathe, right? And again, thank you so much for spending a Thursday evening with all of us. Okay, we ready to go? Okay. So starting off, the name of this session is how to write, no, I don't even remember, to put together a successful portfolio. So we need to have a conversation about what actually is a portfolio. So a portfolio is a document. It's a document created by a family or parents or grandmama or somebody that introduces their child and to help others get to know their child. So this, as I mentioned, I'm going to share a number of pieces of a portfolio, and this is the front page, a part of a front page of a portfolio. And so this is Miel, and it says, "Hi, I'm Miel. I love frogs, baby dolls, drumming, singing, and dancing. I love my family and my cat, Ramona. I'm independent, introverted, and a little shy. I need to observe first before I'm joining in." So you can see just from this little snippet, a very small snippet, that this is an introduction, right? It has a picture and a little snapshot of who Miel is.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're having trouble. Carmen, your audio is not very clear on the Spanish channel. I think something's wrong with the microphone that our interpreter is using. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah, we'll wait.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, all is good. Thank you, Carmen.
All right, ready to go.
Sí, yeah.
So do you want me to start this piece over again, or do I keep going? All right, I certainly will. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So a portfolio is also a strength-based way to get to know who the child is and what makes them unique. When we just were talking about that little snippet of an introduction about Miel, it was talking about what she can do, who she is, right? Not about what she can't do. And so again, these are some snippets of pieces of portfolios that speak to that. And so the piece on the left of your screen talks about when and what works for when and what doesn't. And so it talks, and we're going to talk in particular about this piece a little bit further on, the kind of what works and what doesn't. But I want you to hear some of this language about high expectations, presume competence. We want using things that motivate when to encourage preferred behaviors, giving when time to process, those kind of things. And then if you look on the right-hand side, this is all about Cora. Cora has an enormous capacity for joy and shares her smiles and laughter exuberantly with others. She's communicative, and engaging, and loves to talk to her friends and loved ones. She's empathetic and caring and wants to help others when they are hurting. She's resilient, strong, and quick to forgive. She's strong-willed, perseverant, and works hard to learn to do things independently. So that's coming from her mom and her dad, her family. And so they're telling us about who she is. And so I really want you to be keeping that piece in the back of your mind, about that strength-based piece, about who she is and what she can do and who she's all about. So the why, you kind of have a little bit of an idea of what the general definition of a portfolio is, but now we're going to talk about the why. Why are we even talking about this? So a portfolio, again, is an introduction, but who are we introducing your child to, right? Our children to. We could be introducing them to teachers. Could be, it's part of the transition process from the preschool classroom to the kindergarten programs. It could be to providers. I've had families do this do a portfolio for a new babysitter, a new childcare provider coming into the home, or also a changing childcare providers. And then also for the teams, right? The IFSP or IEP teams, I've had families doing it for a variety of folks. It's you thinking about who you would want to introduce your child to. And again, it's flipping that language. Oftentimes, more often than not, unfortunately, our IEP language tends to be deficit-based. We're talking about the needs of the children. We're talking about their scores on the assessments. We're talking a lot about what they can't do, right? And again, that portfolio is flipping that language and wanting to, and the intention is to provide for the receiver of that portfolio all about who this child is and who your family is and what they can do. So here's another example. This is Sean. Sean's strengths, likes, dreams, and interests. So again, listen to this language. Sean is a wonderful person. He's caring and nurturing to people and animals, even toys when he is playing. Sean is very strong in his heart and mind. His abilities greatly outweigh his disabilities. Please see who he is, not what he cannot do. We have high standards and goals for his life. He will work hard at all that he does, and we will work hard with and for him. Sorry about my mix up here. But again, very strength-based, right? A portfolio also gives you a chance to share what you know best. You know your kiddo way better than I did as a preschool teacher or as a kinder teacher, right? And it gives the new teachers that opportunity to learn who your child is and who your family is. Well, I'll share pieces of how you can talk more about your family as well. So here's another one. This is about Yoshi. I am 6 years old and love to laugh. My favorite people in the world are Mama, Papa, my big brothers Mika and Shiloh, and my dog Charlie. I'm happy, funny, silly, smart, independent, and loving. I'm going to skip a little bit here. I love to learn new things. I love being around my friends. I learn so much by watching them. I'm an observer and quick to model. I love a lot of words. I know shapes, colors, numbers, and over 250 flashcards. I'm learning the alphabet and phonetics and working on decoding the letters to read words. I understand more than I can express, and I'm working on articulation. I'm eager to try things myself. Please let me do things as much as I can. I like challenges. So here's going to be, I'm going to ask you the first interactive piece here for you to write something in the chat. So you learned a little here about Yoshi, and you can look at the slide again here. as a teacher, I'm receiving, Yoshi's coming to me as a kindergarten teacher. He'll be in my classroom in the fall. What am I learning? What are a couple things that I am learning about Yoshi from this little snippet? What are some things that you see that I might be learning as a new teacher? Sneak here. Open up the chat. Anybody wants to add anything? What do you think? As a new teacher, what is helpful for me in this? I mean, everything, of course, is helpful, right? But as what might be something? Peer modelings are helpful. Yep, peer models, excuse me. Yoshi needs space, right, to try things. Yeah, this is a quick and a deep intro to Yoshi, and it's small. Look at, it's not much language here, right? He needs a lot of time, so opportunities to be independent, right? Here's a piece here. If you look at this sentence right here, I understand more than I can express, and I'm working on articulation, right? So for me as a teacher, I'm thinking, okay, I have to give him time and space, right? So he can process and he can have an opportunity to be able to talk. He enjoys learning. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things here. And it also is telling me as a teacher, things he loves to do, right? And so I might be able to incorporate some of those things into my classroom. So as a teacher, this is or an early educator, whatever you are, right? A childcare provider, this really will, this is helpful, right? This is helpful information. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to share a few things from some families that I know that I've had the opportunity to get to know over the years and still even have some interaction with so many years later. In fact, Isaac is graduating from high school this year. Isaac's family, when asked about portfolios a number of years ago, his mom said, this sounded difficult. It sounded like something overwhelming, right? But once I started it, I couldn't stop because she was able to share, right? It really helped us share who our beautiful boy is with his new teachers. And we did that. They were moving to a new school for Isaac, moving out of our area and moving to a new school. And they were able to write a portfolio and create a portfolio that he could take to transition to his new school. And Jay's family said, I was afraid his new team wouldn't know him. And I wanted them to see him and love him as much as we do, excuse me. The portfolio helped me put that into words and pictures, said his mama. And Abby's family said we wanted Abby's new teachers and para to know who she is. She was transitioning into a kindergarten class, and not just what she can't do. We shared some of the things she does at home so they know she's capable of so much more. Because Abby was a little one who was pretty darn quiet when you first got to know her, right? Or were first getting to know her, I should say. And she had so much going on, and she was just a phenomenal little girl. But you might look at her at first, some folks might look at her at first and think that she had way more challenges than she did. And that was an important piece that Abby's family wanted to make sure and get through to folks. And from a teacher's perspective, and I'm talking from my own perspective, I wanted to do the best I could for every one of my kiddos, right? And I still do, even for my university students, but I did it when I was in early childhood. And so when I would receive their IFSP or IEP file, right, you get this file in your hand, and you learn assessment scores, you learn test scores, you read reports, you have outcomes and goals and all of that formal junk, right? That formal stuff. But it doesn't tell me who Isaac is or who Abby is or who Yoshi is. So receiving a portfolio was like getting a gift. because it really helped me to understand and get ready for the child who was coming in. And it helped me understand who that child was and the family was, helped me see who they were, helped me see what they felt was important, and the gifts that that child would be bringing into my classroom. And again, as we just talked about for when we were looking at Yoshi's little snippet there, it could help me, these pieces help me get my classroom ready. If I know that I'll use my grandson's name. If I know that Zephyr's coming into my kindergarten classroom, and Zephyr is really shy, but he loves dinosaurs and he loves whales, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have some of those kind of things in my classroom to help him, right? And if I know he needs a lot of time processing, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to try and slow down as much as possible. So for me, I really looked at portfolios as a gift, in a way to help me get to know folks a little bit better. All right, so we're going to stop just real quickly and just take a moment to reflect and think about your wonderings right now. We talked a little bit about what a portfolio is and why we might be using them. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll address them in a little bit, but I want to make sure you have time to think about it and ask a question if you want, or make a comment if you want, because sometimes if we wait till later, we've forgotten what we've wanted to ask. And so I wanted to make sure and give you a space to do that before we move on. Excuse me. So before we talk and dig into the components of what a oh, good question, Jan. Jan's asking, what would we recommend for families? How deep? We're going to talk a bit about that in just a second. Good question. Before we start talking about the components and what to write and how much to write, this is really, really important for everyone to remember. The portfolio that the family is going to make, or you are going to make if you're a family member, or you're going to help a family give ideas to a family if you're a provider, is unique to that specific family and that child. So I'm going to give you a lot of ideas. I'm going to talk to you about some different components you can add in, but you don't have to do all of those, right? It can be as long or as short as you want it to be. I have seen portfolios that have been about 2 or 3 pages long. And then I have seen portfolios that have been about 15 pages long, because folks have added a lot of photos and artwork and different things. There really are no rules. And I think the more we try, the important piece is the more we try to kind of constrain it, right, and put rules around it, then I think the more we'd all push back, right? Because I might want to write a lot about my kiddo, and then other folks may want to add more illustrations and other things. And then there are some folks who might just want to put 1 or 2 pictures in, right? It just depends. It absolutely just depends. Which I know that answer is often uncomfortable for folks, but just start writing, right? Just start making some notes, and we'll talk about that in just a second, and see where it takes you. Oops. Here we go. So beginning list. It's always important to think about who you're creating this portfolio for, right? And what you want them to know. So again, we talked about the who a little bit earlier. It could be an IEP team, a new teacher, childcare, whoever it is, right? Have that in mind as you're thinking about what you are going to put in it, excuse me. And then some ideas on what to include could be. an introduction to your child and family, right? A nice introduction, and I'll show you some examples. A family mission statement, which can sound really scary and formal, but it doesn't have to be. It's not. It's just talking about what's important in your family. What makes your child unique, and who are they, right? You've seen a few examples of that already. And what do they love? It might be you're talking about foods and play and activities, the friends they like, those kind of things, right? And you can do that in bullet form. You'll see some examples of that. You could also do it in a narrative form. Totally up to you. And then what they can do, that's kind of a repeat, but what they can do, and you saw an example of what works and what doesn't work. So that's another piece of it. Photographs and artwork. And you'll see lots of examples of that coming up. And then, excuse me, I don't think I included an example of this in this presentation, but you can also include notes or quotes from folks who might be the teacher that your child is transitioning, the teacher in the classroom your child is transitioning out of, or the child care center, those kind of things, some things that important things they've said about your child that you want to include, that you want somebody else to know. And things that were, I already said this, but things that work and things that may be difficult, right? So here on the left-hand side of the screen, I'm looking at my hands. On the left-hand side of the screen, it's what works. And for this little one on the right-hand side of the screen is what doesn't work. And in the portfolio, this is a side-by-side. So it's on the same sheet of paper and it's side-by-side. And so some things that works for this child that they've wanted to make sure that folks knew that high expectations, praise and encouragement. I'm not going to read the whole list, but offering your hand or a touch on the shoulder, breaking instruction into smaller parts, peer modeling, modeling a new activity and then letting her try it, giving her choices, giving her time to run and jump and climb and get rid of that energy, right? Or to capture that energy. And then on the other side of the slide is what doesn't work for her. Being excluded, assuming she can't or won't do something, giving her multiple step instructions spoken quickly, giving her sharp reprimands and saying no repeatedly, telling her what not to do, having peers too close into her personal space, loud and chaos, hot, very hot or very cold, and open doors and gates, and I love this one, open doors and gates and lack of supervision, which provide opportunities to elope and wander. So as a teacher, if I'm reading this, right, like, okay, this little one is a wanderer, right? I'm going to make sure, I know we should always make sure to have our doors closed and our gates shut and everything, but I'm going to pay particular attention to this little one and maybe have a buddy close by if she tends to wander, right? Especially in the beginning, as she's getting to know me and she's getting to know our classroom. So this, what works and doesn't work, gives me a lot of information, lots of information that would be helpful as a teacher, right? It's loud and chaotic activities, high-pitched sounds, those kind of things are really hard for her. So I may, and oftentimes a kindergarten class or a preschool class can get loud and chaotic. And so maybe in the beginning, as she's transitioning into the class, I'm going to make sure that I'm near her when those things are happening to help kind of steady her as things might get little bit louder and talk her through it, right? They also on this side, offering your hand or a touch on the shoulder. All of these things are really, really good to know. And I'm going to tuck all of that information into the back of my brain, But I also I'm a big sticky note person still to this day. I'm making sticky notes. So I want to share this information with the other folks in my classroom, right? And also we'll have them look at the portfolio, but I want to make sure there are some things here that I want to make sure that we're all really, really aware of. Because what we want is we want this little one to be able to transition into our classroom and have the very best experience, and want her to look forward to coming into our classroom, right? And having this information and really taking that information in and making the best use of it will help all of that. So again, we already saw this screen or this picture, but I'm going to show you a portfolio in its entirety here. So this is the front page of Miel's portfolio. And again, we looked at it, this little snippet a little bit ago, but just to remind you that she loves frogs and baby dolls and drumming and singing and dancing and all of those things. Independent, introverted, little shy, and needs to observe before joining in. Already it's telling us a lot about Miel, right? And look at that face. Look at that love. So this is again Miel's. So now we're going to look at her entire portfolio. How they've set it up with her, or how they've set, her portfolio up, is they've done a lot of bulleted lists. So I'm going to tell you, some folks do this, right? And you've seen some examples. I've also seen examples where people have done it in narrative form, right? I've also seen handwritten ones, and we're going to talk about handwritten portfolios where people have just done like little word bubbles and written some things in. It's totally dependent on what the family is wanting to do and how they're wanting to set it up. So here's Miel's. What helps me succeed and what dysregulates me? What doesn't help me, right? What makes me a little shaky, right? What helps me succeed is following routines, allowing me time to observe, visual schedules. Again, that teacher in me is saying, okay, I'm getting ideas here. Extra processing time, peer models and peer supports, praise and affection, gentle eye contact, first, then, and either or choices, reminders before transitions, short, direct communication, weighted blankets and vests and deep pressure, singing or making things silly, and patience. All right, I just looked at that list of probably, I don't know how many, I'm not going to count them, 12 maybe, things on that side of the list. And I've already seen, all right, I'm going to make sure I have visuals. So I'm going to make sure that we do a lot of singing and did a lot of singing in my classes. I'm going to make sure I've got silly songs. I'm going to make sure that I have first then statements ready. We're going to make sure and keep our communication short. And as a teacher, I should know that already, right? And I know that I shouldn't have lots of language when I'm talking to kiddos, short, direct communication, but these are really good reminders. Sounding like she doesn't like a lot of direct, and I'm just reading this on the left right now, a lot of direct eye contact. She needs gentle eye contact. Another thing really good to remember, and patience, giving her time, right? Then on the other side, here's what dysregulates me, what makes me a little shaky, unexpected changes in the schedule. All right, good to know. Long, complicated explanations, long verbal directions without visuals, aggressive, probing eye contact, scolding and shaming, loud noises, crying, and chaos. This is not the same child that we talked about with chaos a little bit ago, but again, all of these are really, really good to know, right? And we shouldn't be scolding and shaming in our classrooms, but sometimes some of us have a little bit harsher voice, even though we're not being harsh. But it's good to know about Miel, right? That she needs things a little bit toned down, right? And so this gives me so much information that would be helpful for me. Here's another piece, and this one talks about present levels. Not all have to. I mean, I shouldn't say not all have to. Not all do. But present levels, you know, in our IEPs, we have present level of performance, right? Which gives us lots of typically assessment information and evaluation data. But here's present levels according to Miel's family, Miel and her family. She can say, sign, and identify the alphabet, and the same with colors and shapes. She recognizes and picks out numbers up to 10. She can navigate an iPad, grips pencils and pens, kicks and throws a ball, open doors, and clear place and clean up. And then what they've done on her portfolio on this page is they've added a lot of photographs. And again, you can if you want, and if you have the ability to do that, that's fantastic. And some folks do that, and some folks do it in a little bit different way. And they have a picture. They're illustrating some of her areas of her present levels. She's signing boat. She's playing with a dollhouse. Here's a picture of her, a photo of her writing, and then a photo of her working on her iPad. Excuse me. And again, this family has chosen kind of to do a bulleted list. And again, you could do that, or you don't have to do that. And some folks do captions for photos. Again, totally up to you. This is another piece of her portfolio. They're talking about communication. Her verbal speech is hard to understand. My verbal speech is hard to understand, but I have a lot of language, right? So they're telling us something here. I communicate through sign, through PECs, my iPad talker, and my behavior. I have speech apraxia. Sometimes the word I'm thinking in my head, comes out in my mouth as something different. My body prefers the strongest neural pathway. This is why I often reflexively, say no, and then get upset with the results because I didn't want to say no, right? But my body's working against me. I can hear and understand you. My understanding of language is good. It takes me longer to process what you are saying and asking. My parents describe me as chatty, but my speech therapist says I'm cheeky with my talker. I'm self-conscious. I know I sound a little different, and this inhibits me. So again, they're telling us some of the same things that they said on the last slide, right? When they talk about some of the things she go back here, right here, what helps me succeed. But they're also telling me by repeating some of this, how important this is, right? And it's telling me so much about Mia, right? She uses a lot of sign. She's using some tech. She's using PECs. They talked about visual schedules. I need to give her a lot of time to process, right? Her mom and dad say she's chatty, and her speech therapist says she's cheeky. So, and then this is the last part of her portfolio. I'm included at home, and I'm included in the community. Some more photographs. Now, remember I mentioned a mission statement, or kind of like a the values of the family. This is what this last piece is here. They shared a quote from the Fred Rogers Center, and then they talked about their expectations, their wishes, and their hopes, and their what kind of drives the family. We expect both our girls to be independent young women who are self-motivated and hardworking. We expect them to find a passion, to build a life that is meaningful to them, and give back to their community. In kindergarten, Miel will learn to be included in the community, and the community will learn to include her. This feeling of belonging is critical to well-being. All children can sense when their dignity and potential is recognized, And our commitment to support is to support her teachers and professionals in her life as much as possible. And thank you for taking the time to thoughtfully read this. So this is telling me so much about this family and what their wishes and their dreams and their expectations. It's not even wishes and dreams. It's what their expectations are for their family. This could easily be a list too, right? Or a few pictures with a quote. It doesn't have to be a lot of narrative. Totally up to the family as to how much or how little you want to put in there. Okay. So some strategies, and we've talked a little bit about some of these, but again, I'm a list maker, a consummate list maker. So I suggest you families start making a list. You make a list. One, as a reminder, is who do you want to see this portfolio? Is it the transition team? Is it her kindergarten team? If your child's transitioning to kindergarten, if your child's transitioning from birth to 3 to 3 to 5 services, or going to a new child care provider, those kind of things. Who's your audience? We always say that when we do presentations. Who's your audience? What do you want them to know about you and your family, right? You might want to do a family mission statements, visions for your child and your family, kind of like they said for Miel right here, this one, right? Sorry, I'm flipping. And how do you see your child interacting with the world around them? I would just start making a list. Doesn't have to be too formal. So here's another example of kind of a family mission statement or family, the values of a family. This is Nick, Leah, Cora, and Ruby. Our family is committed to sharing a life that is loving, respectful, and kind. We celebrate the things that make us each unique, and we endeavor to recognize and value one another's strengths. We're committed to supporting one another as we work together towards achieving happiness in education, work, and life. It's pretty simple, but it tells me a lot. It tells me a lot about who they are. Continuing with your list, what do you want the receiver, the audience, to know about your child? What would help the reader get ready for your child's arrival in their classroom or environment? When we talked earlier about some things as I was a teacher, what was I getting? What was I learning? What are some things that would be helpful for me as your child's coming into my classroom? I also added, consider writing a letter. I have found for some of us, me included, it's hard for me to look at a blank page and think I need to write a paper, or I need to write a mission statement, or I need to write this. But if I say, oh, I could write a letter. I can write a letter to somebody, dear teacher, right? Or dear childcare provider, and just start writing. That can help you formulate your thoughts and ideas. Doesn't work for everyone, but for me, that's one of the really, really helpful things. Yes, Shelley.
I just wanted to interrupt you for 1 second in between slides. We have a veteran parent with us who needs to leave in a few moments, and I just wanted to invite her to share kind of her experience of creating a portfolio and how it was useful for her family. So Mindy, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I was a kindergarten cohort parent in 2014 and 2015. My child, Nicole, is now a 6th grader, so she's in middle school. And it was just critical to communicate to her team, which is, more than just her teacher. It's a variety of different people, speech therapist, case manager, occupational therapists. I mean, just it gives even just the school in general, like who is going to be in touch with your kid and is needing information on how to connect with them, and also just to really embrace your vision. So I think that the work that goes into this will help with that. Personalizing it just really shows people that don't have experience maybe working with a child with a disability, you know, how this child has been brought up in their community, and shows things that they are learning, and just really gives a sense of this person as a human being, and giving attention to that. Additionally, it's just a huge opportunity for you to gather your thoughts and all the things that are going through your mind as you're moving through to a new place in your lives, a new experience, as you are really starting to think about what it is you want for your child, and collecting yourself so that when you're in those places where you are trying to sell your vision or share your vision, that you really, you know, you have a strong appeal. So it's just a great organizational and marketing tool for you that will just benefit your child tremendously and get them off on the right start. I was trying to quickly see if I could find my daughter's kindergarten portfolio. I found a version of it, so I will drop a link to it. It wasn't my final one, but it'll give you a little bit more language that we particularly used. So I wish you guys all the best as you create these portfolios, and really encourage you to put your heart in it. I think you'll be thankful you did.
Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Cindy. Your presentation is beautiful.
Thank you, Mindy.
I would just add, it really offers an opportunity for everybody at the table to really, to see the images and pictures of this little person and this family, when we're looking at all the information and things that work and don't work, just having that visual of who we are all here for. We all care about this experience, these little ones, and we're going to be entering into relationships for hopefully a very long time that's going to set us on a good path to every year, just keeping building and growing these opportunities. So, and like Cindy, like you said, there's no one script for it. This is a chance for you to be creative, and this is your family's light and vision. So I would say, don't be intimidated that yours might look a little different than somebody else's. Go with it, get creative. And this is a chance for your family to participate together and to be a part of this path. And don't forget to just enjoy the experience of this new milestone and getting ready for kindergarten. And gosh, don't you wish that every student, as a teacher, Cindy, don't you wish every student had one of these when they came to your class?
Absolutely. It really is. It helps. It really does help to reframe the conversation when you're thinking about, as I mentioned earlier, we get into IEP meetings and it gets so bogged down, right? And this really does reframe that conversation, and we see the child and the family in a different way, right? And it really is bringing a piece of who they are into this conversation, and reminding us as team members that it is more than, you are more than a file, right? Which we know, but unfortunately, sometimes we get bogged down into all of that because here's another IEP meeting, here's another IEP meeting, but this really does change that conversation for us. Here's a letter. I'm not gonna read it, but this is about when, and the family chose to write it in a letter form. So I just wanted to share that, and this is in your PowerPoint, so you have a copy of this. What I was going to do is, what is it, 6 o'clock already? I was going to have you think about, or for our families, for our parents and other family members who might be here, take a couple minutes and write down 3 things you would want a teacher or a team or somebody to know about your child. Just take a couple minutes to write some of those things down on a piece of paper. And if you're willing to share those in the chat box. And also, we have some teachers here or educators here or team members here. Put on that hat, right? Or what are some things, as you've been seeing the this PowerPoint and listening to this presentation, what are things that you really, outside of, remember the file, we know that, what are things you would love to know about the child coming into your classroom or into your new environment? So think about that. And if you're willing to share any of that, feel free to add. I'm seeing the numbers going up in chat. Okay. Just take a couple minutes. Again, it's brainstorming, right? These are things you know and things you are already thinking about, especially as your children start to transition into other programs. What is it you're wanting them to know or hoping for them? And the same thing for teachers or educators. Okay, feel free to share it in the chat if you're willing. Learning to advocate for himself, asking for his headset if it's too loud, asking for alternatives, likes to be involved in making the plan of what to do next. Important things for a team or the folks who are going to be working with him to know. Thank you, Shelley. And it looks like Mindy dropped her portfolio into the chat too, so you can download that if you want. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one as you're thinking. Sure, if you're to talk, I can't see y'all. I'm going to share. Here's one more. This is about Wynn, who the letter was about. Hilarious and has a goofy sense of humor. Right? Smart, outstanding receptive language skills. Can do almost everything he is if he is motivated. Important to know. When reads people really well, if you presume competence and insist on high achievement, he'll show you what he can do. And on the flip side, he's more happy to rely on adults to do things for him if you assume he's incapable of doing them for himself. Again, important to know. When uses a walker and scoots on his bottom to get around, he can walk holding an adult's hand and is moving towards holding onto a piece of clothing like a pocket or a shirt. And he communicates using sign and yes and no nods. Again, important pieces to be able to share so we can know more about who Wynn is, and important information for me as the person on the receiving end. Well, Emily's sharing that Calvin works well with first then statements, needing mini breaks for large motor stimulation. He's learning to use his words when he needs something. Thank you, Emily. Thanks for sharing.
Shelley and Cindy, were we going to, at this point, stop recording and then offer an open conversation with Q&A for folks?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Can I just share one more thing before we do that?
Sure.
It's the putting it all together piece. Angela already said this. This stuff doesn't have to be fancy or high tech. I have received and had in my possession hard copy, cut and paste photos, kind of scrapbook style portfolios. It can be that. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be on a Word document. You can use PowerPoint, all of those kind of things. But really what it is, it's a gift. It's a gift, and it's a gift that you're sharing with us. And it's a tool for that future teacher and team that we can use to get to know who your child is. So I just wanted to make sure you know it doesn't have to be all high tech and all organized using PowerPoint or anything. So that was it, Angela. But now, yes, we can definitely go to.
Okay, I'll go ahead and stop the recording then. And if anybody has questions.
We stop the share so we can see